What's up, everybody? It's Jacob here. Before I even jump into the video, I do want to say a small token of appreciation for my 20 subscribers and call this a celebration, if you will. I know some people might reserve that for, 100 or for 1,000 or whatever, but I feel like counting these small milestones as you're working towards them, that's good. That's not even the main reason I'm doing this. Again, I think it's very good for me to just have this and practice on this and talk to whoever needs to hear it. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, let me ask this. What does it mean to be chronically online? Now, this may be a phrase you've heard kind of thrown around, maybe TikTok or Twitter, and a lot of the younger Gen Z generation, which I think I'm kind of considered a part of. I'm maybe in that middle ground of millennial Gen Z, but honestly, I relate more to Gen Z from the humor side of things, at least. I'm a little quirky, sorry. The definition essentially boils down to someone being so online, so active on the internet, that it is essentially their entire life. I know I said in the last video that I don't want to get into last year and the pandemic. However, I actually think it's pretty important regarding this issue because it really made people realize how important it is to be online, at least to a degree. What other way are you going to communicate with your friends if you can't even leave your house? It kind of became a necessity for entertainment, for communication, for a social life, right? Now, for some people, it's lasted longer than the pandemic. And I want to get into some of my own examples here pretty soon, but at least for now, to kind of describe what it means to be chronically online is interestingly varied now. Where it may have been more of an oddity at the time, now it's kind of just normal. You think about it, everyone has a phone, everyone goes on Facebook, Twitter, social media. Even if you're just browsing for a little bit, you're technically online. It's so ingrained into the culture, into media, into everything that it's like everyone is online to a degree. So how can someone be too online? Isn't that just everyone? Isn't that just normal? This past week, I had a few days off, and with that time, I decided to see a concert. It was the first one I've seen that I would say is like a legitimate concert. Sure, I've been to shows here and there. I've been to, little outings of people playing music in little bands and stuff. But I feel like this was like the first one that was like, okay, you're specifically going to see this person and you're going to see what they do and they're making the rounds on their world tour, that kind of thing. Well, I saw Caribou. For those who don't know, Caribou is an electronic artist who I've been into forever. And when I saw they were coming to my state, I'm like, what? I had to see it, and it lined up perfectly with my days off, so how could I resist, right? So I decided to do that. I went to the concert, and while I was there, I feel like I gained some new perspective, in a way. Not only knowing that music is a big passion for me, and that, potentially opening or touring with someone like that, and just imagining that feel is a very exciting endeavor that, it just reassured me that, like, wow, yeah, I love this stuff. But also it got me away from being in this room. And there's nothing wrong with the room. Unless we're talking about the 2003 Tommy Wiseau classic. There's nothing wrong with that either. I'm just throwing that out there. Another disclaimer. But it got me out of this space. And when you're in a space for so long, the rest of the world just seems very small because your mind just starts getting used to where you are. I know it's not really that deep. You just like music. You go see a show. Okay, big deal. Well, more background. I moved to a new city for a new job about 2 months ago. And there's been a lot of transition challenges, I would say, in that time. One thing that's always been a comfort for me is talking on the internet. And okay, sure, big deal. I've been involved with online communities, I feel like, ever since I was given a laptop. Nothing too insane, obviously, but like when I was like 12 or something, I started on like Super Mario World Central, which was just like a ROM hacking site where, I was working on a hack of a Super Mario World game that I still haven't finished, but I could show that at some point. That's a video idea. Actually, you know what? Click the card up here if I've already made it. If I haven't, then just let's keep going. Let's keep going. But I was involved in that community, and I started getting involved with other communities too, and just talking to people with these similar interests, which is fine. But I noticed it started taking precedent over my real life relationships. Throughout high school, you ask anyone how high school was for them, I feel like it's a red flag. It's like, it was fantastic. All 4 years, best years of my life. That's great. However, it can't really be said for everyone. I will say this though. My senior year of high school was pretty decent. I feel like I was starting to come to terms more with maybe my talents and who I was a bit. And of course, that's kind of the journey through like your life. You're finding out yourself, but I'm not talking about that deep, okay? What I'm talking about is that I made my first album, Inspire. And I was giving it around to people, and it was really cool. And then me and my friends, we made our big 30-minute film. We got everyone involved at the school, and then they all like watched it and premiered it at the end of the semester. And it was like great. It was just a great send-off, I feel like, from high school. But then what happened after that? Well, community college, I guess, happened after that. And any of these transition times, I've noticed an interesting pattern. I start withdrawing a bit. I start going back to the comfort of being online. Recently, at least, that's been with Discord. I mean, goodness gracious, you could spend your whole days on there if you wanted to. Just going through servers of things you like and people with similar interests, and especially the voice calls. I'm really guilty with this one because I could just sit in a voice call and just talk to someone, ad nauseum. But then I look at the time, I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh no. And it's really satisfying in the moment, and especially for someone like me who just likes to talk to people. However, again, recently I feel it's been a bit crippling to my surrounding area. And so by going to that show, I got a little more perspective. When I came back, I'm like, wow, okay, this is kind of what I've been doing. I'd like to just get out more. And perhaps I'm being too hard on myself. Yeah, it's only been a couple months. Maybe things just haven't opened up for me yet to really get involved. But then again, am I taking the opportunities I have to get involved around here, or am I just being comfort zone, right? Staying and just talking to people and being sucked into that, because at the end of the day, it leaves you a bit empty. So tying that all into the topic of being chronically online, would I consider myself chronically online? It's a tough one to answer. I'm on a computer at work. I often come back on a computer at home. It's kind of difficult to not be chronically online. You really have to make actual efforts to separate yourself from having your whole life centered online. But I have always felt an odd sense of disconnect with my in-person relationships and my online relationships. Especially when I was a bit younger, it just felt like I was completely different and I was a completely different person. And then, online, I was also completely different, and they were just kind of two separate, and I never wanted to have them cross over. There was never really a moment I would want to tell my in-person friends about my online friends because something was in conflict there. And I think this still applies to a bit of a degree, maybe not all the way, but I feel like the breaking point for me was a bit earlier this year. I had a bit of a negative online experience that translated to in-person, and that made me realize, oh my goodness, this isn't good. I feel like, a lot of who I've been spending my time around and what I've been doing, and just, it made me reassess a little bit. But I feel like we're still kind of at that point. So I guess the question is, why don't you just make friends in person? You seem like a pretty outgoing person. You probably get along with anybody. Well, thank you. That's very nice. However, it's been a little tricky for me. I don't know if I'd even call it social anxiety, because that seems like a bit too big. I can talk to people just fine. Once I'm actually talking to them. I think perhaps it's just the initial, oh, hey, how you doing? The approaching people. I don't know. That's always been a bit of a tricky spot for me, and really intruding. And that's probably a negative connotation, but that's a lot of times how I view it as. It's like, gosh. But I guess that's my own thing to work through. Just with the type of person I am, I do like to be positive, right? I like to show that things are fine. I don't. It's the worst thing for me to be a downer. for somebody and be like, oh, I'm going through this and this, and list my laundry list of just, oh gosh, and just be that downer energy all the time. And before you start typing in the comments, oh, but Jacob, don't you know you need to be vulnerable in order to make lasting relationships? Yeah, I know, okay? That's not the problem. I know good and well how it's supposed to be. It's just a little bit difficult for me sometimes, okay? That's my third or fifth disclaimer, I don't know. I just realized for me that sometimes being online is just easier. That doesn't always mean it's better, but sometimes it's just kind of an option. My last semester of college was a blast. It was right before the pandemic hit, and it was a good 4 or so months of just good times. I had completed a lot of hours prior, and this was more of a chill, kind of relaxed semester. And I feel like it was just a really good time for me to actually be developing these friends and getting more involved with the student films, and it just really felt like a good place that I could kind of grow in plenty of areas. And that I realized once I was doing that, I didn't really need to be talking online as much. I mean, sure, I still would on occasion because I like to talk a lot. I think I've mentioned that a little bit before, and you can probably tell by these videos. But then when the pandemic hit, everything was kind of just a 180, right? I mean, again, you couldn't really go anywhere, and I found myself reverting to these ways of just, talking online. I mean, what else am I gonna do? Make a full-length album or a short film completely by myself? No. Who has time for that? Okay. So maybe I did do that a little bit, but the point still stands. So I know I've kind of gone all over the place, but I want to go back into the topic and maybe see what you guys think. You can definitely feel free to type away at this point of what you think of the term chronically online. I mean, would you consider yourself that to a degree? Do you think it's dumb? Do you think everyone is already just kind of online to a point that, okay, that phrase is just redundant? Or would you say it could be a bit of a problem, and that maybe having your life too sucked in to the virtual world can harm your actual relationships and other things and distract you? There's a lot to cover there. There's a lot to talk about, and I'd be curious as to what you guys think. I think that about covers it for this video. Once again, I really considered going all out with this and doing bigger production value, but this stuff is just in my head, and I feel like it's good to get it out there. So, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for future topics, and I hope to see you next time. Hit the like button. That's what the thumb means. Did you know there's thumbs up? That'd be cool. I mean, you don't have to, but I would recommend it. And you should probably take my word for it. In fact, I don't know why you're still here. Look at this guy. Boop, boop, boop. That's me clicking. That's me tapping the like. Tapping the like. Boop. Oh, whoa, it's a subscribe button. Oh, I better go get that. I'll see you.